Okay, Doug, why don't you go ahead, Doug?
Good morning. Today we are conducting.
Just Doug, 1 second. You're not coming through clear.
Good morning. Today we are conducting an auction for a Category 4 slot machine license as provided for in Act 23 of 2020. Specifically, that act directs that the board shall conduct an auction of any Category 4 slot machine license for which the board has denied the application filed by the winning bidder of an initial auction. The board has previously denied an application for a Category 4 slot machine license to Mount Airy Resort and Casino, and that is the specific license for which we are now conducting an auction. The winner of today's auction will obtain the right to select a Category 4 location. On August 5th, 2020, the board published notice of the manner in which this auction would be conducted in light of COVID-19 restrictions. Pursuant to the instructions provided, 2 bids have been received at the board offices by Monday, August 31st, 2020. Those bids, which I have in my possession, have remained unopened. We will now proceed to open the bids. Having opened the bids, I'm going to have the Director of the Office of Hearings and Appeals, Linda Lloyd, verify the bids that were provided. The winning bid amount is $10,101, submitted by Ira Lubert. The location designated as the center point of the Category 4 location is in Unionville Borough, Center County. We will be verifying the coordinates and the eligibility of the bidder and location, and will post the geo coordinates to the board's website by close of business today. The coordinates, to be clear, will mark the center point of the Category 4 location, which is a circle with a 15-mile radius from that center point. The successful bidder will have 6 months to submit an application for the Category 4 license at a facility to be located somewhere within that Category 4 location. With that, the auction is concluded and we will proceed to the board's public meeting.
Thank you, Doug. All right, then. Today and this time and hour is the time scheduled for our public meeting of the Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board. I'm David Barish, the chairman of the board. Before we begin, I would like to note that we're holding this meeting via video conference for the first time since the epidemic, with board members and other participants participating from different locations in furtherance of directives given to us by the Pennsylvania state government. On March 11th, the Commonwealth's Office of Open Records issued an advisory as to how state and local agencies should conduct their businesses in compliance with the Sunshine Act, given the unprecedented health crisis going on in the Commonwealth. The advisory also provided that under these emergency circumstances, the public business of the Commonwealth could be done via teleconference or video conference, so long as a mechanism was put in place to allow public access. We've conducted several of these before. This is the first time we're going to try to conduct it via Zoom. We have done this, excuse me a second. We've done this by providing public access to the video and audio portions of this meeting through the board's website, as well as by publishing the call-in information for this video conference for those who do not have internet access. Additionally, as always, we have a court reporter who will be transcribing this meeting verbatim. With all that said, I would like to ask that anybody who has called into this meeting to please keep their telephone or computer on mute. Also, for those who will be participating in the meeting, I would ask that before you speak, please make sure it is clear for the record who you are. So to get started, in addition to the 7 board members who are all either participating by video or audio, we have Fred Strathmeyer representing Russ Redding, Secretary of Agriculture, Jennifer Langen representing Joseph Torsella, the State Treasurer, and Kristen Heidingsfelder representing Department of Revenue Secretary Dan Hassel. Thank you all for your participation. First order of business, seeing a quorum, I'll call the proceedings to order. First order of business, the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic
for which it
stands, one nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
By way of announcements, the board held an executive session yesterday, Tuesday, September 1st, via video conference to conduct quasi-judicial deliberations relating to matters that are coming before the board today. Next, I'd like to have consideration of a motion to approve the transcripts of the June 10th, 2020 and July 8th, 2020 meeting. May I have such a motion?
This is Commissioner Canolo, and I move that the board approve the transcripts of June 10th, 2020 and July 8th, 2020 meeting.
Commissioner Logan seconds.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion's adopted. Next up, Executive Director Kevin O'Toole. Good morning, Kevin. Nice to see your face.
Good morning, Chairman. Nice to see your face also, and members of the board. For my Executive Director's report this morning, I would like to take a few moments to congratulate Pam Lewis on her retirement from service with the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania after 28 years of dedicated service. Pam's retirement will begin at the end of next week, so it's right upon us. The Gaming Control Board has been very fortunate to have Pam with our agency during the past 14 of those 28 years. Most importantly, during the past 4 years, which have been extremely busy for our agency with gambling expansion initiatives, Pam gladly took on the responsibility to support 3 key positions: the Executive Director, the Chairman of the Board, and the Administrative Director, while at the same time fulfilling the duties of Board Secretary. Pam, your exceptional business and organizational skills, along with your steadfast support of the board over the years, is very much appreciated. You have always had the board's best interest in mind in everything you have accomplished for our agency. On my behalf and on behalf of the entire agency, we wish you good health and great happiness as you embark on the next phase of your life. Thank you so much for being a very significant part of our team over these years. Thank you, Chair.
Before we proceed, I'd like to comment. I know you have some other things, Kevin. I'd like to second most of what Kevin said and go a little bit further. I've worked very closely with Pam now for 4 years. I'm happy to say I think we've become good friends. She's an extraordinarily talented individual, completely unflappable, and is the definition of an outstanding public servant. I would point out that when you think about dedication, consider the fact that Pam would have left us probably 5 months ago or 6 months ago, but for the unusual circumstance that we found ourselves in. So she delayed her retirement as long as possible here to make sure we had as much support and that you could perform the key roles she performs for this agency well into the process we've been going through with the COVID-19. Unfortunately, all great things for us come to an end. You may be looking forward to it. I, for one, am not looking forward to your departure. And I want to thank you most sincerely for your partnership with me and your friendship and all that you've done for me, Kevin, and the rest of this agency. I don't know if anybody else has anything they want to offer before I let Kevin proceed. Anybody else have anything to say?
Congrats on your retirement.
Second all of that.
I want to congratulate you as well, Pam, and wish you the very best, and make sure you come back to visit us in the future.
Thank you all for your kind words, and it certainly has been a large part of my career to be at the board, and I've enjoyed navigating the expansion and everything that we've accomplished, and I have mixed feelings, as I'm sure many of you can understand, about leaving. It's a big family there, and we interacted in ways that we couldn't imagine during undue stress, and I don't think that will be replicated in my life again, except for the horde of children and grandchildren that I have from time to time. But thank you all for your kind words.
Thank you, Pam. Kevin?
Thank you, Chairman. I don't have any other business items. This was the most important item for me today, so thank you.
Okay, then. Thanks so much, Pam, and I'm sure you will not be a stranger. Next up, Chief Counsel Doug Sherman. Doug?
Morning, Chairman, members of the board. Our first agenda items relate to a final form rulemaking and a proposed rulemaking, which Assistant Chief Counsel Chad Zimmerman will present.
Good morning. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Chad Zimmerman, Office of Chief Counsel, Assistant Chief Counsel. The first matter before the board today is final form rulemaking number 125-218 for Down Under Blackjack. These are the table game rules of play for the game Down Under Blackjack. This game is played largely similar to that of the traditional blackjack game. However, affixed on the table is a proprietary card reader from a table game manufacturer that when the dealer inserts his whole card into the card reader, a light is illuminated to notify a player whether the dealer has a low card, a middle card, or a high card. This gives the player a little bit more information before deciding what to do with his or her hand. The table game rules of play include all necessary wagers and procedures for dealing and all applicable side wagers and how a player will win the game. I can answer any questions you may have on these rules. If none, I would request a motion to approve proposed rulemaking, or the final form rulemaking.
Thank you. Sorry, just have to shift around here for a second. Are there any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Logan moves that the board adopt the final form rulemaking number 125-218 regarding Down Under Blackjack as described by the Office of Chief Counsel.
Commissioner Mustio seconds.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? The motion's adopted.
The next matter is proposed rulemaking number 125-234. These are the regulations and regulatory scheme for sports wagering in the Commonwealth. This is the last regulatory package going into proposed form for the forms of expanded gaming. This regulatory package is largely based on the temporary regulations that were adopted by the board previously in 2018. There were larger changes that needed to be made to this regulatory package as opposed to the others, as there were some things that were overlooked in the initial temporary regulations, particularly relating to retail sports wagering. Those provisions were added, such as physical characteristics to sports wagering locations, as well as addressing other concepts such as layoff wagering and the required reporting scheme for contest tournaments and other forms of pool wagering. I can answer any questions you may have on this regulatory package. If there are none, I would request a motion to approve proposed rulemaking number 125-234.
Does the board have any questions or comments on this matter? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Mustio moves that the board adopt proposed rulemaking number 125-234 regarding sports wagering as described by the Office of Chief Counsel.
Is there a second?
Unmute. Commissioner Reitzel seconds.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? The motion's adopted. Thank you, Chad.
Thank you, commissioners.
Next, the board has 4 petitions before it for consideration. Each will be decided based on the documentary record by agreement of the parties. In each of these matters, the board has, in advance of the meeting, been provided with all of the documents filed today. First petition before the board today is Sugar House HSP Gaming's request relief from a consent agreement approved by the board in August 2014. Sugar House now does business as Rivers Philadelphia. By way of background, in August 2013, during an inspection of random slot machines at Rivers Philadelphia by board staff, discovered that 12 machines are not set to have a payout percentage of at least 85% as required by the Gaming Act. After an investigation, it was determined that when a casino slot technician had upgraded the machine's operating systems in those particular machines, he had mistakenly selected the wrong pay table. And those machines were in operation for a total of 148 days before the
Doug,
yes.
Doug, I think I have to interrupt you. I'm not sure if anybody else having audio problems here? Is
Yes.
Richard still around? Is there
I'm
anything?
having trouble hearing Doug, yes.
Is there anything we can do there, Richard, if you're there? Is he with you?
Yes, I'm waiting for him to come over.
Okay, let's just wait a minute because I wasn't sure if it was just me. It's kind of what was happening with Kevin last week. Or rather, last month, I guess.
That's better. That's better?
Let's see. Continue, Doug, and let's see how it sounds.
All right, I'll start at the beginning of this petition.
Nah, No, I think we're okay. You can
Okay.
just pick up where you were.
The prior consent agreement entered into and approved by the board involving this matter called for a $85,000 civil penalty and requires Rivers Philadelphia to perform a quarterly review of each machine on its gaming floor to assure that they are all set at or above the minimum payout percentage. Additionally, Rivers Philadelphia amended its internal controls to require the quarterly reviews. Rivers Philadelphia is now requesting relief from the quarterly inspection provisions from the August 2014 consent agreement, stating that it has now been over 6 years since the requirements for quarterly reviews were put in place, and there have been no further incidents. They also indicate that the continual review and inspection disrupts operations and consumes a great deal of the team members' time. And more importantly, they rely upon the fact that the board, after the 2014 consent agreement, had adopted a policy which prohibits the submission for approval by the board's lab any slot machine software which even contains pay tables less than 85%. As a result, machines can no longer inadvertently be set to a pay table below the threshold. For the reasons cited by the petitioner, the Office of Enforcement Counsel has no objection to the relief requested at this time, and that matter is now ready for the board's consideration.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from the board on this matter? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
Commissioner Reitzel moves that the board grant Sugar House.
For you?
Is there a second?
Listen to the fucking gaming control board.
There was a second. Was that you, Dante?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. We're having some audio problems. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? All opposed? The motion's adopted.
I didn't read that whole thing. Should I do it for the record?
What whole thing?
The whole motion.
Oh, I thought okay, please do. I'm sorry. I thought.
No problem. That's no problem. Commissioner Reitzel moves that the board grant Sugar House HSP Gaming LP's request for relief from consent order and internal controls relating to pay tables as described by the Office of Chief Counsel.
Thank you.
Tony seconds.
Thank you. And all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion's adopted. Thank you, Merritt. Go ahead, Doug.
Okay, Stadium Casino RE LLCs and Stadium Casino Westmoreland RE LLC has a petition for approval of shared service agreements, and that's the next matter before the board. They are seeking approval of two separate shared service agreements. The first agreement is between Category 2 licensee Stadium Casino RE and GC Shared Services, and the second is between Category 4 licensee Stadium Casino Westmoreland RE LLC and CG Shared Services. CG Shared Services is an upstream affiliated company of the board casino licensees, and they will provide advice, support, and assist with operational matters at both facilities, including the areas of purchasing, IT, and human resources. The Office of Enforcement Counsel has no objection to the relief requested, subject to conditions outlined in their answer, which primarily guarantee appropriate licensure and reporting mechanisms are in place. Additionally, OEC has no objection to a motion seeking confidentiality for some of the documents filed in the case, and this matter is now ready for the board's consideration.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from the board on this matter? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Santoni moves that the board grant Stadium Casino RE LLC's and Stadium Casino Westmoreland RE LLC's petition for approval of shared services agreements as described by the Office of Chief Counsel and with the conditions requested by the Office of Enforcement Counsel. I further move that the board grant the petitioner's request for confidentiality.
Commissioner Smiler seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? The motion's adopted.
The next petition before the board today is Mountain View Thoroughbred Racing Association's petition for approval of a branded online sportsbook and iCasino shared service agreement with Penn Sports Interactive. Mountain View is a Category 1 slot machine licensee and does business as Hollywood Casino at Penn National Racetrack. Penn Sports Interactive holds the principal affiliate license and is part of Penn's interactive gaming and sports wagering division. Both Mountain View and Penn Sports Interactive are subsidiaries of Penn National Gaming and Mountain View intends to enter into an agreement with Penn Sports Interactive for the purpose of using an existing infrastructure and operations to develop, launch, and operate a new online sports wagering product in Pennsylvania, as well as in other jurisdictions. In exchange for payment, Penn Sports Interactive will provide services which include, but are not limited to, regulatory compliance, banking, training, as well as technical and software support. The Office of Enforcement Counsel has no objection to the relief requested, subject to conditions outlined in the answer. Additionally, OEC has no objection to a request by Mountain View that certain portions of the record be maintained as confidential, and that matter is now ready for the board's motion.
Thank you, Doug. Are there any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Smiler moves that the board grant Mountain View Thoroughbred Racing Association LLC's petition for approval of a branded online sportsbook and iCasino shared services agreement as described by the Office of Chief Counsel and with the conditions requested by the Office of Enforcement Counsel. I further move that the board grant the petitioner's request for confidentiality.
Commissioner Knoebel, second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion's adopted.
The fourth petition before the board is Mountain View Thoroughbred Racing Association's request for approval of a change in the operational structure of their future Category 4 licensed facility, Hollywood, Morgantown. As mentioned earlier, Mountain View is a wholly owned subsidiary of Penn National Gaming. And Gaming and Leisure Properties, or GLPI, is a real estate investment trust that specializes in acquiring the real property of gaming operators and leasing it back to them. In fact, a GLPI affiliate owns the real estate upon which both Hollywood Casino at Penn National and the Meadows Racetrack and Casino currently operate. In March of 2020, GLPI and Penn entered into a binding term sheet that provides for the sale and leaseback of the real estate that constitutes the future site of Hollywood Casino Morgantown. Per the agreement, Mountain View will sell its ownership interest in the real estate in exchange for $30 million of rent credits. The Office of Enforcement Counsel has no objection to the relief requested, subject to conditions outlined in their answer and subject to presentation of other items by the Bureau of Licensing later in this meeting. Additionally, OEC has requested confidentiality of certain information in their answer in new matter, and the matter is now ready for the board's consideration.
Thank you, Doug. Are there any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Knoebel moved that the board grants Mountain View Thoroughbred Racing Association LLC petition for change in operation structure of Hollywood Casino Morgantown, as described by the Office of Chief Counsel and with condition requested by the Office of Enforcement Counsel. I further move that the board grants Enforcement Counsel requests for confidentiality in part, as will be outlined in the board's order.
Commissioner Logan seconds.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion's adopted.
The next matter before the board today pertains to several unopposed petitions to withdraw applications or surrender the credentials of the following individuals: Camilla Arvidsson, James Elliott, Timothy Casey, Kimberly Fitzgerald, Marlon Goldstein, Guy Templer, Mark Richard Dunn, Richard J. Schneider, Jonas Jansen, Michael Patrick Morris, Paul Savis, Michael Silberling, Greg Daniel Calanto Jr., and Carl E. Vogel. The Office of Enforcement Counsel has no objection to any of these withdrawals or surrenders, and as a result, if the board grants them, it will be doing so without prejudice to the requester. These matters are all now appropriate for the board's consideration.
Thank you. Is there any question? Are there any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Logan moves that the board issue orders to approve the withdrawals and surrenders as described by the Office of Chief Counsel.
Commissioner Mustio seconds.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? The motion's adopted.
And that concludes all the matters of the Office of Chief Counsel.
Okay, next up, Bureau of Licensing. Sue Hensel. Hi, Susan.
Hey, Dave.
Haven't seen you in a while.
It has been a while. It's nice to see you. Thank you, Chairman Barish and members of the board. Before the board today will be license consideration of one interactive gaming manufacturer, 2 sports wagering manufacturers, and 1 video gaming terminal establishment. In addition, there will be 572 principals and key gaming and non-gaming employee applicants. Finally, there will be consideration of 2 gaming service provider applicants. First for your consideration is the approval of interactive gaming and sports wagering manufacturer licenses for White Hat Gaming, Inc. White Hat Gaming, Inc. is a subsidiary of White Hat Gaming Limited, which is based in Malta. White Hat Gaming, Inc. provides technology for online interactive and sports wagering operations, including a player account management system. The Bureau of Investigations and Enforcement has completed its investigation, and the Bureau of Licensing has provided you with background investigation and suitability reports. I have provided you with draft orders and ask that the board consider the orders for licensure, beginning first with the interactive gaming manufacturer license.
Iris Petrie, on behalf of the Office of Enforcement Counsel, we have no objection to the licensure.
Thank you, Cyrus. Are there any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Reitzel moves that the board grant the interactive gaming manufacturer license for White Hat Gaming, Inc. as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
You were
No,
on mute.
I'm on the wrong,
You're
I'm sorry.
on mute, Dante.
Tony second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? The motion's adopted.
Next is a sports wagering manufacturer license.
Enforcement Counsel has no objection.
Thank you, Cyrus. Any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Santoni moves that the board grant the sports wagering manufacturer license for White Hat Gaming, Inc. as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Smiley seconds.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? The motion's adopted.
Next for your consideration is a sports wagering manufacturer license for Amelco UK Limited. Amelco UK Limited is a London-based company that provides sports wagering technologies and services to sports wagering operators. The company was previously issued a conditional sports wagering manufacturer license. The Bureau of Investigations and Enforcement has completed its investigation, and the Bureau of Licensing has provided you with a background investigation and suitability report. I have provided you with a draft order and ask that you consider the order to approve a sports wagering manufacturer license for Amelco UK Limited.
Enforcement Counsel has no objection.
Any questions or comments from the board? May I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Mustio moves that the board grant the sports wagering manufacturer license for Amelco UK Limited as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Reitzel seconds.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? The motion's adopted.
In addition, we have consideration of a VGT establishment license for Raji Inc. doing business as Trexler Plaza Truck Stop. VGT establishments are truck stops seeking to place VGTs in their businesses. Raji Inc. was previously conditionally licensed. The Bureau of Investigations and Enforcement has now completed its investigation, including evaluation that the applicant meets the VGT establishment criteria in the Gaming Act. The Bureau of Licensing has provided you with a background investigation and suitability report. Once fully licensed, an establishment can continue forward toward completing the steps necessary to commence VGT gaming. I have provided you with a draft order and ask that you consider the order to license Raji Inc., doing business as Trexler Plaza Truck Stop, which is located at 5829 Tileman Street in Allentown.
Enforcement Council has no objection.
Any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Reitzel moves that the board grant the video gaming terminal establishment license for Raji Inc. as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
You're on mute, Dante.
No, I'm not on mute. Commissioner Santoni seconds.
Okay.
All right.
Was I the only person who couldn't hear him?
I
Or is
couldn't
that-
at first.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, I don't know what's going on. Don't worry about it.
I'm on delay.
Thank you, Dante. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? The motion's adopted. I see your mouth move, but I can't hear anything. Okay.
Additionally, there are principal and key employee licenses for your consideration. Prior to this meeting, the Bureau of Licensing provided you with a proposed order for 11 principals, including Morgantown Real Property LLC associated with the change in operational structure petition discussed earlier in this meeting, and 32 key employees. I ask that the board consider the order approving these licenses.
The Office of Enforcement Counsel has no objection.
Any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
Chairman, Commissioner Santoni moves that the board grant the principal and key employee licenses as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Thank you.
Commissioner Smiley seconds.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? The motion's adopted.
There are also temporary licenses. Prior to this meeting, the Bureau of Licensing provided you with an order regarding the issuance of temporary licenses for 2 principals and 6 key employees. I ask that you consider the order approving these licenses.
The Office of Enforcement Counsel has no objection.
Any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Smiler moves, excuse me, that the board grant the temporary principal and key employee credentials as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Canola seconds.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? The motion's adopted.
Next are gaming permits and non-gaming registrations. Prior to this meeting, the Bureau of Licensing provided you with a list of 461 individuals to whom the Bureau has granted temporary or full occupation permits, and 35 individuals to whom the Bureau has granted registrations under the authority delegated to the Bureau of Licensing. I ask that the board consider a motion approving the order.
The Office of Enforcement Counsel has no objection.
Any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Canola moved that the board approve the applications for gaming employee occupation permits and non-gaming employee registration described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Logan seconds.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? The motion's adopted.
The next matters for your consideration are withdrawal requests. In each case, the gaming permit is no longer required. For today's meeting, I have provided the board with 23 gaming applicants for withdrawal. I ask that the board consider the order approving these withdrawals.
The Office of Enforcement Counsel has no objection.
Any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Logan moves that the board grant the withdrawal of gaming employee applications as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Mustio seconds.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion's adopted.
Next, we have an order to certify the following gaming service providers: Metropolitan Interactive Limited and RCR Electrical Contractors, Inc. I have provided you with a draft order and ask that the board consider the order certifying these gaming service providers.
The Office of Enforcement Counsel has no objection.
Questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Mustio moves that the board approve the gaming service provider certifications as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Reitzel seconds.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? The motion's adopted.
That concludes the Bureau of Licensing's matters.
Thank you. Thank you, Susan. Be well. OEC,
The Office of Enforcement Counsel will present 13 matters today for the board's consideration, in which we will request the approval of 1 suspension, 1 revocation, and 11 involuntary exclusions. The next 2 matters on the agenda consist of enforcement actions in which the Office of Enforcement Counsel filed complaints seeking the suspension of 1 non-gaming employee registration and the revocation of 1 gaming 2 employee occupation permit, both of which were issued by the board. The complaints have been filed with the board's Office of Hearings and Appeal and properly served upon the individual named in each complaint. The individual named in each complaint failed to respond within 30 days as required by board regulation. As a result, the Office of Enforcement Counsel filed a request for default judgment in each instance and properly served the same upon each respondent. Therefore, the facts in each complaint are deemed admitted. All filed documents have been provided to the board and the matters are presently ripe for the board's consideration. I will provide a brief summary of the facts and make a request for the appropriate board action in each matter. The next matter on the board's agenda for consideration is the suspension of the non-gaming employee registration issued to Amira Jasmine Perry. The suspension request is a result of a felony and misdemeanor criminal charges that Ms. Perry attained for breaking into multiple occupied structures. The criminal charges remain pending, and Ms. Perry is not currently employed in the Pennsylvania gaming industry. At this time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requests that the board suspend the non-gaming employee registration issued to Amira Jasmine Perry.
any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Reitzel moves that the board approve the suspension of Amira Jasmine Perry's non-gaming employee registration as described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Is there a second?
Commissioner Santoni, seconds.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
The next matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is the revocation of the Gaming 2 employee occupation permit issued to Margot Pisnoy. During her employment as a VIP services host at Valley Forge Casino Resort, Ms. Pisnoy was observed smoking an illegal substance believed to be cocaine inside of an office at Valley Forge Casino Resort. Law enforcement was called to the scene. During Ms. Pisnoy's arrest at Valley Forge Casino Resort, she admitted to smoking cocaine. Additionally, the cocaine and drug paraphernalia were found on her person. Ms. Pisnoy resigned from Valley Forge upon being arrested. Ms. Pisnoy is not currently employed in the Pennsylvania gaming industry. At this time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requests that the board revoke the Gaming 2 employee occupation permit issued to Margot Pisnoy.
Any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Santoni moves that the board approve the revocation of Margot Pisnoy's D2 employee occupation permit as described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Smiler seconds.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? The motion's adopted.
The remaining matters on the agenda consist of enforcement actions in which the Office of Enforcement Counsel filed petitions seeking the involuntary exclusion of individuals whose presence in a licensed facility are inimical to the interests of the Commonwealth and are licensed gaming therein. In each instance, a petition for exclusion has been filed with the Board's Office of Hearings and Appeal and properly served upon the individual named in the petition. The individual named in the petition failed to respond within 30 days as required by board regulation. As a result, the Office of Enforcement Counsel filed a request for default judgment in each instance and properly served the same upon each individual. Therefore, all facts in each petition are deemed admitted. All filed documents have been provided to the board, and the matters are presently ripe for the board's consideration. In each instance, if the board orders a proposed exclusion, each individual's photo, personal identifiers, and a summary of the inimical conduct will be placed on the board's public website. The next matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is a request to place Mahmoud Al-Jamal on the board's involuntary exclusion list. While engaged in gaming activity at Wind Creek Casino Bethlehem, Mr. Al-Jamal was observed placing 12 counterfeit $100 gaming chips into play and also placed a total of 39 counterfeit $100 gaming chips into circulation at the licensed facility. Mr. Al-Jamal was arrested and criminally charged by the Pennsylvania State Police. Additionally, Mr. Al-Jamal was permanently evicted by Wind Creek. At this time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requested the board place Mahmoud Al-Jamal on the involuntary exclusion list.
Are there any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Smiler moves that the board approve the addition of Mahmoud Al-Jamal to the PGCB involuntary exclusion list as described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Canola seconds.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion's adopted.
The next matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is a request to place Chi Gao on the board's involuntary exclusion list. While engaged in table game play at Wind Creek, Bethlehem, Mr. Gao cheated by capping his wagers, thereby fraudulently benefiting $400 from his illegal conduct. Mr. Gao was criminally charged by the Pennsylvania State Police and permanently evicted by Wind Creek. At this time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requests that the board place Chi Gao on the involuntary exclusion list.
Any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Canola moved that the board approve the addition of Chi Gao to the PGCB involuntary exclusion list described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Logan seconds.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion's adopted.
Next matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is a request to place Juan Geraldo on the board's involuntary exclusion list. While at Mohegan Sun Pocono, Mr. Geraldo stole another patron's backpack, which contained $5,000 in gaming chips, gift cards, and other personal items. Mr. Geraldo was criminally charged and pled guilty to theft. At this time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requests that the board place Juan Geraldo on the board's involuntary exclusion list.
Are there any questions or comments from the board?
I just wanted to ask Cyrus if the other individuals involved in this are they being prosecuted? Are we doing anything about the others that were involved in the transactions?
The other individuals were not criminally prosecuted. We could not find any proof or supporting evidence regarding any of their actions. We did issue warning letters to those individuals. Most of what we received was hearsay based upon comments made by one witness in particular, but there was nothing to support what actually occurred. So as a result, the evidence was lacking in that regard.
I see.
Can you please identify yourself? The female speaking.
Commissioner Reitzel?
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions or comments on this? I have just one, Cyrus. I think you said it. There's a hotel involved. Is this hotel connected to the casino?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. May I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Logan moves that the board approve the addition of Juan Geraldo to the PGCB involuntary exclusion list as described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Mr. Mustio seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The motion's adopted.
The next matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is a request to place Suzanne Hook on the board's involuntary exclusion list. While on the gaming floor of Mohegan Sun Pocono, Ms. Hook stole a voucher belonging to another patron, cashed the voucher, and kept the money, thereby depriving the patron of approximately $339. Ms. Hook was arrested and pled guilty to theft. At this time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requests that the board place Suzanne Hook on the board's involuntary exclusion list.
Any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Mustio moves that the board approve the addition of Suzanne Hook to the PGCB involuntary exclusion list as described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Reitzel seconds.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? The motion's adopted.
The next matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is a request to place Melissa Lefevre on the board's involuntary exclusion list. While on the gaming floor of Hollywood Casino Grantville, Ms. Lefevre was observed giving a controlled dangerous substance to a Hollywood Casino security officer on several occasions. Ms. Lefevre was arrested, criminally charged, and ultimately entered a guilty plea. Ms. Lefevre has been permanently evicted from Hollywood Casino. At this time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requests that the board place Melissa Lefevre on the involuntary exclusion list.
Any questions or comments from the board on this matter? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
Commissioner Reitzel moves that the board approve the addition of Melissa Lefevre to the PGCB involuntary exclusion list as described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Santoni seconds.
Thank you.
You heard me, okay.
Not great. We'll work on that for the next time. There's something with the audio.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion's adopted.
The next matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is a request to place Ruia Liu on the board's involuntary exclusion list. While engaged in table game play at Wind Creek, Bethlehem, Ms. Liu was caught cheating by colluding with another patron to conceal cards and later reintroduce those cards into table game play. The cheating event caused $86,875 in fraudulent winnings to occur, of which $44,095 in restitution has been made thus far. Ms. Liu currently owes $6,100 in restitution. At this time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requested the board place Ruia Liu on the board's involuntary exclusion list.
Any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
Chairman, approve the addition of Maria Lee to the PGCB involuntary exclusion list as described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner
Thank you.
Smiler seconds.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? The motion's adopted.
The next matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is a request to place Malik T. Sutton on the board's involuntary exclusion list. While engaged in gaming activity at Rivers, Philadelphia, Mr. Sutton attempted to pass counterfeit $100 bills. The Pennsylvania State Police filed criminal charges against Mr. Sutton, and a warrant for his arrest is currently pending. Mr. Sutton has been permanently evicted from Rivers, Philadelphia. At this time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requested the board place Malik T. Sutton on the board's involuntary exclusion list.
Are there any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Smiler moves that the board approve the addition of Malik T. Sutton to the PGCB involuntary exclusion list as described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Kernodle seconds.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion's adopted.
The involuntary exclusion petitions of Hua Chen and Quzong Chen are the next two matters on the agenda for the board's consideration. Each matter results from the same fact pattern. With the board's permission, I will read the fact pattern once and request the appropriate board action for each. Hua Chen and Quzong Chen left their 6-year-old and 4-year-old children unattended in the hotel at Wind Creek, Bethlehem for a total of 1 hour and 11 minutes while they engaged in gaming activity on the Wind Creek Casino gaming floor. Juan and Quzong Chen were both criminally charged with child endangerment and subsequently pled guilty. Additionally, Juan and Quzong Chen were both permanently evicted from Wind Creek, Bethlehem. At this time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requested the board place Hua Chen on the involuntary exclusion list.
Questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Kernodle moved that the board approve the addition of Juan Chen to the PGCB involuntary exclusion list described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Logan seconds and wishes we could do more.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? The motion's adopted.
At this time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requested the board place Quzong Chen on the involuntary exclusion list.
Any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Logan moves that the board approve the addition of Quzong Chen to the PGCB involuntary exclusion list as described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel and wishes we could provide more sanctions to folks like this.
Commissioner Mustio seconds.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? The motion's adopted.
The involuntary exclusion petitions of Daniel Ellsworth Sr. and Melissa Ellsworth are the next two matters on the agenda for the board's consideration. Each matter results from the same fact pattern, and once again, with the permission of the board, I will read the fact pattern once and request the appropriate board action for each. Daniel Ellsworth Sr. and Melissa Ellsworth assisted their 15-year-old son in gaining access to the Wind Creek Bethlehem gaming floor. While on the gaming floor, Melissa Ellsworth provided her 15-year-old son with alcoholic beverages. The minor was on the gaming floor for 1 hour and 10 minutes. The Ellsworths were not criminally charged. However, the Ellsworths were all permanently evicted from the Wind Creek Bethlehem Casino, and the Ellsworths' minor son was issued 2 citations by the Pennsylvania State Police. At this time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requested the board place Daniel Ellsworth Sr. on the involuntary exclusion list.
Any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Mustio moves that the board approve the addition of Daniel Ellsworth Sr. to the PGCB involuntary exclusion list as described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Reitzel seconds.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? The motion's adopted.
At this time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requests that the board place Melissa Ellsworth on the involuntary exclusion list.
Questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
Commissioner Reitzel moves that the board approve the addition of Melissa Ellsworth to the PGCB involuntary exclusion list as described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Santoni seconds.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? The motion's adopted.
Thank you. That concludes our business.
Thank you, Cyrus. And as best I can tell, that concludes today's business. The next public meeting of the board will be held on Wednesday, September 30th at 10 a.m. Given the continued uncertainty, I advise all interested parties to monitor the board's website for the latest information as to how that board meeting will be conducted. May I have a motion to adjourn the meeting, please?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Santoni moves to adjourn.
Commissioner Smiley seconds.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion's adopted. We are adjourned. Good luck to you, Pam.
Bye, Pam.
Good luck, Pam.
Good luck.
So long, everyone.
And Kevin, you and I are the only ones left.